The old spacesuit made a soft hissing sound as Kang Da-hyun moved through the dark hallway. His flashlight cut through the darkness, showing walls covered in strange writing. Da-hyun had been a mechanic for 15 years, but he had never seen anything like this ship before. "Base, this is Da-hyun. I'm still exploring the lower deck. No sign of anything valuable yet," he said into his radio. "Copy that, Da-hyun," answered Tai-ho, his team leader back on their salvage ship. "You have 2 more hours of air. Don't waste time." Da-hyun nodded, even though no one could see him. At 35 years old, he was one of the best mechanics at Seoul salvage operations. His job was simple: find old, abandoned ships in space, take anything useful, and leave the rest for the big machines to crush into scrap metal. This ship was different. For one thing, it wasn't on any maps. Their scanners had found it by accident, floating quietly at the edge of the solar system. For another thing, it was old, really old. Da-hyun guessed it was at least 200 years old, maybe more. "The computer says this might be a Mrydon ship," Tai-ho had told the team during their briefing. "The Mrydon disappeared a long time ago. If that's true, this could be worth a lot of money." Now, as Da-hyun walked deeper into the ship, he felt a chill that had nothing to do with the cold of space. The air inside the ship was thin but breathable. Someone or something had kept life support running for a very long time. His scanner beeped softly, showing a small power source ahead. That was good news. Even old power cells could be worth something. He followed the signal, moving carefully through the narrow hallways. The ship design was strange. Hallways curved in odd ways. Doors opened upward instead of sideways. Everything was built for someone bigger than a human. Da-hyun stopped suddenly. He heard something. A scratching sound, like claws on metal. "Tai-ho, I think there might be something alive in here," he whispered into his radio. Static answered him. The ship's thick walls were blocking his signal. Da-hyun checked his oxygen meter. Still plenty of air. He should turn back, report what he found, and return with the team. That was the safe thing to do. But the scratching sound came again, followed by a low moan that made the hair on his arms stand up. Da-hyun wasn't a brave man. He didn't fight in the Mars Wars like his father. He didn't explore new planets like his sister. He fixed things. That's all. But something about that sound, it wasn't threatening. It sounded like pain. He moved toward it, one careful step at a time. The hallway ended at a large metal door. Unlike the others, this one was sealed tight. Next to it was a control panel with blinking lights. At least some systems were still working. Da-hyun studied the panel. He didn't recognize the technology, but he understood machines. After a few minutes of careful work, he connected his portable computer to the alien system. "Come on," he whispered as his computer tried to make sense of the alien code. "Show me what you're hiding." With a soft hiss, the door slid open. The smell hit him first, a mix of animal musk and something sour like old blood. The room beyond was dim, lit only by blinking machines along the walls. Da-hyun's flashlight revealed a large circular chamber. The floor was metal grating. Beneath it, he could see pipes and more machinery. In the center of the room was a raised platform. And on that platform, Da-hyun gasped. A creature that looked like a giant cat lay there, secured by metal chains. But this was no Earth cat. It had purple fur that seemed to shimmer even in the dim light. It had 6 legs instead of 4. Its head was larger, with a mane that reminded him of a lion. The creature turned to look at him. Its eyes were golden, with vertical pupils that widened as it saw him. Those eyes were intelligent. There was no doubt about it. Behind the large creature, huddled together in what looked like a nest made from torn fabric, were 3 smaller versions of it. Cubs. "My God," Da-hyun whispered. The large creature, the mother, tried to stand but couldn't. The chains were connected to her body through a complex system of tubes and wires. Some kind of machine was attached to the back of her neck, pulsing with a soft blue light. The mother made a low growling sound, not threatening, protective. She was positioning herself between Da-hyun and her cubs. Slowly, Da-hyun removed his helmet. The air was stale but breathable. He wanted the creature to see his face, to know he wasn't a threat. "I won't hurt you," he said softly, knowing she couldn't understand him. "What happened to you?" He moved closer, careful to keep his movements slow. The mother watched him, her golden eyes never blinking. Now that he was closer, Da-hyun could see how thin she was. Her ribs showed through her once beautiful fur. The cubs behind her were even worse. They looked half-starved. The machine attached to her neck had tubes running to containers along the wall. Inside the containers was a glowing blue liquid. Da-hyun had been a mechanic long enough to recognize a harvesting system when he saw one. This machine was taking something from the mother cat's body, some kind of fluid from her spine or brain, and it had been doing it for a long time. "Who would do this?" he whispered. One of the cubs made a weak mewing sound. The mother responded with a soft purr, but she didn't take her eyes off Da-hyun. His mechanic's mind quickly assessed the situation. The harvesting machine was still working, which explained the power readings. But there was no food, no water visible. The creatures were clearly starving. This wasn't a zoo or a lab. Someone had set up this harvesting operation, then abandoned it, and the creatures, to a slow death. Da-hyun checked his emergency pack. He always carried basic supplies: water, some protein bars. Not much, but maybe enough to help. He pulled out his water container and a small collapsible bowl. Slowly, he poured some water into the bowl and placed it on the floor. Then he backed away. The mother cat watched the water but didn't move toward it. "It's okay," Da-hyun said. "It's just water. You must be thirsty." He picked up the bowl and took a small sip to show it was safe, then placed it back down and moved away again. This time, the mother strained against her chains, trying to reach the water. The chains were too short. Da-hyun's heart raced. He wasn't supposed to interfere with anything on salvage missions, just find valuable items and report back. But these were living creatures, clearly intelligent, left to die. He made a decision. Moving slowly, he approached the mother cat. She growled softly, but didn't try to attack. She was too weak. "I'm going to help you," he said, looking straight into those golden eyes. "I don't know how yet, but I will." His scanner picked up movement at the entrance to the chamber. Da-hyun turned to see his team member, Kim Sun-ho, standing there, helmet off, eyes wide with shock. "Da-hyun, what is?" Sun-ho began, then stopped as he saw the creatures. "Are those?" "They're alive," Da-hyun said simply. "They're intelligent, and they're dying." Sun-ho stepped into the room, his face pale. "We need to report this to headquarters." "No," Da-hyun said firmly. "Not yet. You know what will happen. Scientists will want to study them. The company will want to keep that harvesting machine. It could take weeks to get approval to help them, and they don't have weeks." He looked back at the mother cat and her cubs. "I think they were abandoned here, left to die after whatever their harvesting was collected. I can't let that happen." Sun-ho ran a hand through his hair, a nervous habit Da-hyun knew well. "What are you suggesting? We can't just take them with us." "Why not?" Da-hyun asked. "I can disconnect that machine. We can bring them food, water, nurse them back to health." "And then what? Keep them as pets?" Sun-ho shook his head. "They're aliens, Da-hyun. We don't even know what they eat." Da-hyun looked at the mother cat again. Their eyes met, and in that moment, he felt something. A connection. This wasn't just an animal. There was a person in there, trapped and suffering. "I don't have all the answers," Da-hyun admitted, "but I know we can't leave them here to die. Will you help me, Sun-ho?" Sun-ho looked at the creatures, then at his friend. After a long moment, he sighed. "The captain will fire us both," he said. Da-hyun smiled slightly. Only if she finds out. Sun-ho shook his head again, but he was already pulling out his own water container. I must be crazy. Okay, let's see what we can do for them. As they approached the platform together, the mother cat watched them carefully. But this time, when Da-hyun held out the water bowl, she leaned forward as much as her chains would allow. And for the first time, Da-hyun saw something new in those alien eyes. We need to tell someone about this, Sun-ho said as he watched the mother cat drink water from the bowl. Her long tongue lapped at it desperately. Da-hyun shook his head. Not yet. We don't know who did this to them. It could be someone powerful. Sun-ho pulled out a protein bar from his pack and broke off a small piece. Do you think they can eat our food? I don't know, Da-hyun admitted, but they're starving. Sun-ho placed the small piece of food on the floor near the water bowl. The mother cat sniffed it, but didn't eat. She looked at the cubs behind her, then back at the humans. I think she wants food for her babies first, Da-hyun said softly. He broke his own protein bar into tiny pieces and slowly approached the nest where the 3 cubs huddled. The mother growled, straining against her chains, but she was too weak to reach him. It's okay, Da-hyun told her. I'm trying to help. He placed the food near the cubs. The smallest one, its fur a lighter purple than the others, sniffed the food and took a tiny bite. The other 2 cubs watched, then did the same. The mother cat relaxed slightly, watching her cubs eat. Sun-ho took the chance to scan them with his handheld device. Amazing, he whispered. They have a similar body structure to Earth cats, but there are big differences. 6 limbs. Different organ placement. He looked at the device again. The machine is connected to her brain stem. It's extracting some kind of fluid. Da-hyun examined the machine more closely. I think I can disconnect it, but it might hurt her. Wait, Sun-ho said. He pulled out a small silver device from his pocket. This is a basic translator. It won't work perfectly with a species we've never met, but it might help us communicate. Sun-ho placed the device on the floor between them and the mother cat. It hummed softly as it activated. Hello, Sun-ho said clearly. We want to help you. The device made a series of clicks and purrs. The mother cat's ears perked up. She made a rumbling sound in her throat. The translator device processed the sound, then spoke in a flat, computer voice. Danger. Pain. Cubs hungry. Da-hyun and Sun-ho looked at each other in surprise. It's working, Sun-ho whispered. Da-hyun leaned toward the device. We will help you. We will feed your cubs. What is your name? After a moment, the translator spoke. Name, Nara. Help cubs. Please. Nara. Da-hyun repeated. My name is Da-hyun. This is Sun-ho. We will help you and your cubs. For the next hour, they slowly gained Nara's trust. They fed her and the cubs small amounts of food and water. Sun-ho's translator got better at understanding Nara's language as they talked more. They learned that Nara and her cubs have been captured by creatures she called the Sharp Ones. Da-hyun guessed she meant the Drezek, a species known for illegal trading across the galaxy. They take mind water, the translator said, attempting to convert Nara's explanation. Sell for much value. Keep us alive. Take mind water. Never enough food. Mind water? Sun-ho wondered. Maybe some kind of neural fluid. Da-hyun gestured to the machine attached to Nara's neck. How long have you been connected to this? The translator struggled with Nara's answer. Many. Cycles. Sharp Ones left when ship broke. Said would return. Never came back. They abandoned you, Da-hyun said, anger rising in his chest. Left you to die slowly while that machine kept draining you. He checked his watch. We need to get back to our ship soon. Tai-ho will send a search party if we're gone too long. What's the plan? Sun-ho asked. We can't just leave them here. Da-hyun thought for a moment. We'll come back with food and water. I'll study that machine and figure out how to disconnect it safely. Then we'll find a way to smuggle them onto our ship. Sun Ho laughed nervously. Just smuggle 4 alien cats onto a company salvage ship. That's your plan. Do you have a better one? Da Hyun asked. Sun Ho sighed. No, but we'll need help. He thought for a moment. Lee Jae-won might help us. Da Hyun looked surprised. Our supervisor. She's strict about rules. Yes, but she keeps a picture of her 3 cats on her desk, Sun Ho pointed out, and she donates to animal protection groups. I think she would help. Da Hyun wasn't convinced, but they were running out of options. Okay, we'll talk to Jae-won. But no one else. They explained to Nara that they had to leave but would return soon with more food and medicine. Not leave, the translator conveyed Nara's desperate response. Sharp ones might return. We will come back, Da Hyun promised, looking into her golden eyes. I swear it. As they prepared to leave, the smallest cub crawled forward, dragging its thin body across the floor. It made a small mewing sound and rubbed against Da Hyun's boot. Nara made a soft sound. The translator said, Minji likes you. Rare trust. Minji? Da Hyun asked, surprised at the Korean-sounding name. The translator struggled. Not right sound. Your mouth cannot make. Minji is fine, Da Hyun said, gently stroking the small cub's head. Its fur was soft despite being dull from poor health. We'll be back for all of you, Minji, I promise. Back on their salvage ship, Da Hyun and Sun Ho reported finding nothing valuable on the alien vessel. They claimed the life support was failing and they needed special equipment to explore further. That night, they met secretly with Lee Jae-won in her private quarters. At first, she was angry that they had broken protocol by not reporting their discovery immediately. Do you know how many rules you've broken? She demanded. You could lose your jobs. We know, Da Hyun said, but you need to see what we found. He showed her the pictures he had taken with his personal device. Ji-won's angry expression changed to shock, then to something softer as she saw Nara and her cubs. They're harvesting neural fluid, Sun Ho explained. It's highly valued on the black market. The Drezek abandoned them when their ship was damaged, leaving them to slowly die. Jae-won was quiet for a long time. Finally, she said, if the company finds out, they'll want to study them. The harvesting machine alone could be worth millions. They'll take them to a lab somewhere. We know, Da Hyun said. That's why we came to you first. Jae-won tapped her fingers on the desk, thinking, we need a plan. A real plan, not just smuggling them aboard and hoping no one notices 4 alien cats in your quarters, Da Hyun. Do you have one? Sun Ho asked. A small smile appeared on Jae-won's face. Maybe. The company wants valuable salvage, right? What if we give them something so valuable they don't ask too many questions about the rest of the ship? Like what? Da Hyun asked. The ship's navigation system, Jae-won said. If it really is a Mritan vessel, their navigation technology was centuries ahead of current systems. The company would pay a fortune for it. And while they're focused on that, Sun Ho started. We smuggled Nara and her cubs off the ship, Jae-won finished. I have a friend who runs a wildlife sanctuary on New Earth. It's private, no government oversight. Da Hyun felt hope for the first time since discovering Nara. Will your friend take aliens? For the right price, yes, Jae-won said. And between the 3 of us, we should be able to pay it. There's still the problem of that machine attached to Nara, Sun Ho pointed out. Da Hyun thinks he can disconnect it, but it will be painful for her. Jae-won thought for a moment. I know someone else who might help. Park Eun-ju. She's a doctor on the medical ship that docks with us next week. She treats both humans and aliens. Can we trust her? Da Hyun asked. With my life, Jae-won said. We served together in the Mars Colonial Defense. She knows how to keep secrets. For the first time, Da Hyun felt like they might actually succeed. They had a plan, and they had help. "We need to go back tomorrow," he said. "Bring more food and water. Medical supplies if we can get them." Jai-1 nodded. "I'll arrange it, but be careful. If anyone else discovers them before we're ready." She didn't need to finish the sentence. They all knew what would happen. Nora would become a test subject, her cubs taken away for study. The mind water harvesting would continue, just in a different lab. That night, Da-hyun couldn't sleep. He kept seeing Nora's golden eyes, the trust slowly building in them as she realized he wanted to help. He thought of little Minji, so weak she could barely walk, yet finding the strength to show affection. "We're coming," he whispered to the darkness. "Just hold on a little longer." Over the next few days, Da-hyun, Sun-ho, and Jai-1 took turns visiting the old ship. They brought food, water, and medicine for Nara and her cubs. Slowly, the alien family grew stronger. Da-hyun spent every free moment studying the machine attached to Nara's neck. It was complex technology, unlike anything he had seen before. "I think I understand how it works now," he told Sun-ho on their 5th visit. "It sends tiny needles into her brain and spinal cord. They collect the neural fluid and pump it into those containers." Sun-ho looked worried. "Can you remove it without hurting her?" "Not without hurting her," Da-hyun said honestly, "but I can remove it without killing her." They explained the situation to Nara using the translator, which worked better now after Sun-ho had adjusted it. "It will cause pain," Da-hyun told her, "but afterward, you will be free." Nara's response was clear. Pain is known. Freedom is worth all pain. The medical ship arrived, bringing Dr. Park Eun-ju. She was a small woman with short gray hair and kind eyes that hardened when she saw Nara's condition. "This is criminal," she said as she examined the alien. "These creatures are clearly sentient. To use them as living factories." She gave Nara something for the pain and checked the cub's health. The small one, Minji, you call her, is not doing well. She has an infection. "Can you help her?" Da-hyun asked, worried. Dr. Park nodded. "I brought medicines that should work. Their body chemistry is not too different from Earth mammals." As Dr. Park treated Minji, Jai-1 pulled Da-hyun and Sun-ho aside. "The company has approved the salvage operation. Official teams will be here in 3 days to strip the ship. We need to move now." "Is everything ready?" Sun-ho asked. Jai-1 nodded. "I've prepared a cargo container in Hangar B. It has air, food, and water supplies. My friend at the sanctuary is expecting us in 5 days." "And the navigation system?" Da-hyun asked. "Already taken care of," Jai-1 said with a smile. "I discovered it yesterday. The company is so excited they've doubled our bonus." The next day, they prepared for the removal of the harvesting machine. Dr. Park brought all the medical equipment she could smuggle off her ship. The operation would take place in the alien vessel, as moving Nara, while still connected to the machine, was too dangerous. "Ready?" Dr. Park asked Da-hyun. He nodded, his hand steady despite his fear. He had spent hours going over the procedure in his mind. One wrong move could paralyze or kill Nara. "Tell her it's time," he said to Sun-ho. Sun-ho spoke into the translator. Nara responded with a low growl that the device translated as, "Begin. Cubs say first." Jai-1 gathered the 3 cubs in a portable container lined with soft blankets. Little Minji was sleeping, still weak from her infection but improving. The other 2 cubs, which they had named Dai and Jin, watched with wide golden eyes. "I'll take them to our ship now," Jai-1 said. "Good luck." As she left with the cubs, Dr. Park gave Nara more medicine for pain. "This is all I can give her without risking her life. It won't be enough." Da-hyun took a deep breath. "Let's begin." The procedure was worse than he had imagined. As he carefully disconnected each of the dozens of needles from Nara's spine and brain, she growled and roared in pain. Her body shook. Several times, Dr. Park had to stabilize her vital signs. "The main controller is embedded deep," Da-hyun said, sweat dripping from his forehead. I need to cut the surrounding tissue to remove it. Be careful, Dr. Park warned. There are major blood vessels there. Sun Ho held Nera's head, whispering words of comfort that the translator converted to her language. Her golden eyes were fixed on Dahyun, full of pain, but also trust. After 4 hours of careful work, Dahyun finally removed the last piece of the machine. Blood, a strange purple color, flowed from the wound. Dr. Park quickly applied a special gel that stopped the bleeding and promoted healing. It's done, Dahyun said, his voice tired but relieved. He placed the removed machine parts in a container. We should destroy this. No, Dr. Park said. We should study it. Not to use it, but to understand how to help others who might have been subjected to the same treatment. Nera tried to stand for the first time without the chains and machine. Her legs were weak from months of limited movement, but with Sun Ho and Dahyun's help, she managed to stand. She was much larger than they had realized. Her head was level with Dahyun's chest. Thank you. The translator conveyed her message. Freedom feels strange. Good. Can you walk? Dahyun asked. We need to get to our ship. With their support, Nera slowly walked out of the chamber that had been her prison. Each step seemed to give her more strength. By the time they reached the airlock where they had docked their small transport shuttle, she was walking almost normally. The hard part now, Sun Ho said. We need to get her onto our main ship without anyone seeing her. They had planned this carefully. Most of the crew would be watching a special entertainment broadcast from Earth, a popular sports event. Security would be minimal. They dressed Nera in a large tarp, making her look like a piece of equipment. Dr. Park went ahead to make sure the path was clear. Dahyun and Sun Ho walked on either side of Nera, guiding her through the halls of their ship toward Hangar B. Twice they had to hide as crew members passed by. Nera remained perfectly still, understanding the need for secrecy. They were almost at the hangar when a voice called out from behind them. Hey, what are you moving there? Dahyun's heart sank. It was Tai Ho, their team leader. Just some salvage equipment, Sun Ho said, trying to sound casual. Tai Ho frowned and walked closer. I didn't approve any equipment transfer. Let me see what you've got there. Before they could stop him, Tai Ho pulled back a corner of the tarp, revealing Nera's purple fur. His eyes widened in shock. What the? He never finished his sentence. Ji-won appeared behind him and pressed a small device to his neck. Tai Ho collapsed, unconscious. Sleeping drug, Ji-won explained. He'll wake up in a few hours with a headache and no memory of the last hour. Ji-won, Sun Ho gasped. That's very illegal. So is what we're doing, she reminded him. Come on, we need to hurry. They dragged Tai Ho into a storage closet and continued to the hangar. The cubs were already in the container, which was disguised as regular cargo. Dr. Park was waiting for them. The ship is ready, she said. Small, but it will get you to New Earth in 5 days. The sanctuary owner will meet you at the coordinates I've programmed in. Dahyun helped Nera into the container. It was cramped with all 4 aliens inside, but it would only be for a short time. Once they left the main ship, they could move to the small living area of the transport vessel. What about you? Dahyun asked Ji-won and Dr. Park. They'll know you helped us when we don't return. Ji-won smiled. We have our stories ready. Besides, I'm taking early retirement. The bonus from that navigation system is enough to buy a small house on New Earth. And I rotate to a new assignment in 3 days. Dr. Park added, They won't connect me to this. Sun Ho looked worried. But I plan to come with you and Nera. No, Dahyun said firmly. One of us needs to stay and keep suspicion away. You have family. Sun Ho. I don't. Sun Ho looked like he wanted to argue, but he knew Dahyun was right. Fine, but you better send messages when you can. With final goodbyes, Dahyun sealed the cargo container. G1 used her authority to clear the small transport ship for departure, claiming it was carrying sensitive salvage material to a special facility. As the ship broke away from the main vessel, Da-hyun opened the container. Nara stepped out, moving more steadily now. She went immediately to her cubs, nuzzling them, and making soft purring sounds. Minji, the smallest cub, crawled into Da-hyun's lap and curled up, purring loudly. "I think she's adopted you," said the translator, conveying Nara's words. Da-hyun smiled, stroking the cub's soft fur. "I guess she has." As the ship accelerated away, Da-hyun looked out at the stars. For the first time in his life, he was running away from everything he knew. But he didn't feel afraid. He felt right. 5 days to New Earth, he told Nara. And then a new life for all of us. Nara looked at him with those intelligent golden eyes. The translator spoke. "New life. Together. Family now." Family. Da-hyun liked the sound of that. The small ship moved quietly through space. Inside, Da-hyun watched as Nara groomed her cubs. She was getting stronger each day. The wound on her neck was healing well, though it would leave a scar. Little Minji was doing better too. Her infection was gone, and she played with her brothers, Dai and Jin. Sometimes, all 3 cubs would chase each other around the small ship, their 6 legs moving in perfect harmony. "We'll reach New Earth tomorrow," Da-hyun told Nara, using the translator. "J1's friend will meet us at a private landing area." Nara looked at him with her golden eyes. What will happen to us there? Da-hyun had asked himself the same question many times. The sanctuary is in a remote area. It's protected land. You'll be safe there. "And you?" Nara asked. "Will you stay?" The question surprised him. He hadn't thought that far ahead. His focus had been on saving Nara and her cubs. Now he needed to consider his own future. "I don't know," he admitted. "I can't go back to Sol Salvage. They'll have questions about why I left." Nara made a rumbling sound that the translator didn't convert. She seemed to be thinking. "Stay," she finally said. "Cubs need you. Minji needs you." As if hearing her name, Minji jumped into Da-hyun's lap and curled up. Her purr was so loud it vibrated through his body. "I think I will stay," he said, stroking Minji's head. "At least for a while." That night, as Nara and her cubs slept, Da-hyun received a message from Sunho. "Bad news," it read. "Company knows something is wrong. They found Taiho." He remembered enough to tell them about Nara. "They're looking for you. Be careful at landing." Da-hyun sent a quick thank you message and then checked the ship's systems. They had enough fuel to change course if needed. But where would they go? New Earth was their only safe option. He decided to contact Jai-won's friend directly. The woman's name was Han Juri, and she ran the sanctuary. "I got your message," Juri said when she answered his call. Her face on the screen was kind but serious. "Don't worry. I know a different landing spot. I'm sending coordinates now." "Thank you," Da-hyun said. "Will we still be welcome at your sanctuary?" Juri smiled. "More than welcome. In fact, I have some news that might interest you. Your Rahisi friends aren't the only ones of their kind." "Rahisi?" Da-hyun asked, confused. "That's what they're called," Juri explained. "The purple 6-legged felines. They were thought to be extinct for the last 50 years. The Drezek hunted them almost to extinction for that neural fluid." Da-hyun looked at Nara, sleeping peacefully with her cubs. "You mean there are others?" "A few," Juri said. "In hiding. Protected by people like us. When word got out that you had rescued a female with cubs," she paused. "Let's just say there are some very important people who want to meet you." The next day, they approached New Earth. It was a beautiful planet, mostly covered in oceans with large green continents. It had been terraformed 100 years ago as Earth became more crowded. Following Juri's new coordinates, Da-hyun landed the ship in a thick forest clearing. A small group of people waited there. Ju-ri was easy to spot, a tall woman with a bright red jacket. Remember, Da-hyun told Nara as they prepared to exit the ship. These are friends, but stay close to me. Nara gathered her cubs. We trust you. The air of New Earth was fresh and cool. Nara sniffed it deeply as they walked down the ship's ramp. The cubs stayed close to her, their golden eyes wide as they saw trees and grass for the first time. Ju-ri stepped forward, smiling. Welcome to New Earth. I'm Ju-ri. Behind her stood a small group of people. They wore simple clothes but had a serious official look about them. Who are they? Da-hyun asked quietly. Representatives from the Galactic Council, Ju-ri whispered. When I reported finding living Rehizi, they came immediately. A tall man with gray hair stepped forward. Mr. Kang Da-hyun. I'm Min Do-jin, Galactic Council Special Envoy. What you've done is remarkable. You've saved a species we thought was lost. Da-hyun felt uncomfortable. I just did what was right. What you did, another council member said, was expose a crime that has been hidden for decades. The Dresik Empire has denied harvesting neural fluid from sentient beings. Now we have proof. They showed Da-hyun and Nara to a large transport vehicle. Inside, it was spacious and comfortable. As they drove through the forest to the sanctuary, Min Do-jin explained more. The Rehizi were peaceful traders. Their neural fluid has special properties. It can enhance mental abilities, extend life, cure certain diseases. The Dresik discovered this and began hunting them. How many survived? Da-hyun asked. We thought none, Min said, until 5 years ago, when a small group was discovered on a remote planet. Now, with Nara and her cubs, we have hope for their future. The sanctuary was beautiful, a large area of forest and meadows surrounded by a nearly invisible security field. Several buildings were scattered throughout, designed to blend with nature. As they arrived, Da-hyun saw something that made his heart skip. In a meadow near the main building were 2 large purple forms, Rehizi adults, like Nara. Nara saw them too. She made a sound Da-hyun had never heard before, a high musical call. The other Rehizi raised their heads, then ran toward the vehicle. When Nara stepped out, there was a moment of silence. Then all 3 adult Rehizi were rubbing against each other, making purring and clicking sounds that the translator couldn't keep up with. They're saying welcome home, Ju-ri said, smiling. They're family, distant cousins, I think. The cubs cautiously approached the new Rehizi. After a brief sniffing, they were accepted, with the adults gently grooming them. Minji, however, stayed close to Da-hyun, watching from between his legs. It seems you've been adopted, Min laughed. Over the next few days, Da-hyun learned more about the Rehizi and the sanctuary. The Galactic Council had declared the Rehizi an endangered protected species. The evidence from the harvesting machine was being used to bring charges against the Dresik Empire. What will happen to Nara and her cubs? Da-hyun asked. They'll stay here, protected, Ju-ri said. And we'd like you to stay too. We need a good mechanic, and you already have the trust of the Rehizi. What about Saul's salvage? Won't they look for me here? Min Do-jin smiled. The council has taken care of that. Officially, you've been hired for a special project. Your former employers have been generously compensated for the loss of their mechanic. And my friends, Sun-ho and Jae-won. Dr. Park. All safe, Min assured him. Though I believe Jae-won is already on her way here. Something about early retirement. A week later, Da-hyun sat on the porch of his new home, a small cabin at the edge of the Rehizi territory. Jae-won had arrived that morning, bringing news from Sun-ho and Dr. Park. They were well and promised to visit soon. Nara approached, looking healthier than ever. Her purple fur had regained its shine, and she moved with grace and strength. Behind her, the cubs played in the tall grass. Happy? She asked through the translator she now wore around her neck. Yes, Da-hyun said. Very happy. Minji broke away from her brothers and bounded up to Da-hyun. Though still smaller than her siblings, She was growing stronger every day. She jumped into his lap and purred loudly. "She calls you Father Heart," Nera said, lying down beside his chair. "In our way, family is not just blood. It is who protects you, who saves you." "Then we are family," Dahyun said, stroking Minji's head. In the distance, the two other adult Rahizi called out, a signal that dinner was ready. Dai and Jin ran toward the sound, but Minji stayed with Dahyun. "Go on," he told her gently. "I'll be right there." Reluctantly, Minji jumped down and followed her brothers. Nera stayed. "You saved us," she said simply. "I will not forget." "You gave me a new life," Dahyun replied. "I think we saved each other." As the sun set over New Earth, Dahyun followed Nera to join the other Rahizi for dinner. His old life of salvaging broken ships seemed far away now. Here, among the creatures he had rescued, he had found something he never knew he was missing: a family. And as little Minji ran back to walk beside him, her 6 legs moving in perfect rhythm, he knew he had made the right choice. Some things, he had learned, were worth more than all the salvage in the galaxy.